Good morning. It is Thursday, June 18th, 9:58 a.m. Pacific Time. Yesterday I did not put a journal entry. I was actually gone all day. I went to Fresno about 2 hours, about 100 miles or so away from my hometown. Had to do something at the Mexican consulate with my mom. I will post about that another time. I actually did record our conversation, but I need to edit it out for some sensitive information, and I will. It's going to take me a few days to edit that out. There's a lot of silence, so that's why I'm not doing that today. And also, I want to add some reflections with that. So again, I will do that another day. Today, I don't have anything specific to talk about, so I chose to pick up my Emotions Anonymous book. If you struggle with emotions, this is one of the things that has helped me a lot. Attending remote sessions via Zoom or phone calls or even Google Meet. The online or remote Emotions Anonymous meetings. They help you deal with all kinds of emotional issues. It's a 12-step program. It's for those of us who struggle with our emotions, with easily reacting to things, being triggered by specific things that remind us of our trauma, things like that. It does help, and I wish that I had attended those meetings much earlier. I spent my last 6 years doing a lot of shadow work, a lot of work on myself, and I think I could have used help in that regards. But my personal history meant for that I many times had to figure things out myself. So in trying to overcome that in these past 6 years, I realized that what really kept me away from this type of help. Because even therapy, which I have been attending for the past 4 years, I believe now, it took panic attacks to get me to the point to accept that I needed help. And it took, a lot of work, a lot of crying to get to the point to accept, that I needed more help. The only reason why I started to attend the Emotions Anonymous was because my previous therapist was part of a clinic that was so to capacity that sometimes I would not be able to be fit in 1 week and would be 2 weeks without therapy. So I noticed a lot of the upticks in my setbacks were because I wasn't getting help during a prolonged amount of time. So as a way to kind of fix that, I opted, and with the help of my current therapist, to start attending these type of meetings on those, especially those weeks when I wasn't able to attend the therapy sessions. And now I've started to make it a little bit more of a regular thing. The meeting that I really enjoy is in the morning before I normally wake up. So sometimes I'm unable to attend it, and right now I'm trying to kind of get into the swing of things to find alternate meetings. Since this 12-step program is fairly new compared to the original one, the Alcoholic Anonymous and the what is it, Substance Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. They're still growing. There are a few meetings around the world, but not as many as the other ones. But I'm hoping that it will continue to grow, and that more backup sessions will be available to me and to others. But do check out their website. I believe it's ea.org. And you can find your own remote sessions. Just be wary of the time zones, because most of them, the ones that I found, are Central Time, Eastern Time, and I believe UK time. So just convert that to your local time using Google. But like I said, they have been helping. today I picked up the Emotions Anonymous book, and I think this is the Alcoholics version too in Spanish, Solo por hoy, just for today. And let me read the step, which is actually something that I've been mentioning before. For those of you that are not so spiritually inclined, most of my life I've asked for things, sometimes just in a happenstance thought, quick thought, hey, it would be nice if da 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 da. And soon enough, it would pop up in my life. For the past few weeks or month or so, I've been contemplating, is it time for me to do the 9th step, which is to do amends? And I'll read what it means in a second, but I have been struggling with that to see if I'm ready to go to that next step. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, I've been so used to at doing things on my own that I think I've missed some of the other 8 steps. And one of them is to have a sponsor, somebody who can guide you. And the reason why I mentioned that will be made plain in the section I'm about to read. Now it says step 9. Make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. One second, I need to turn on the light because it's kind of dim in my room and I can't really read well. Alright, let me continue. So again, step 9. Make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. In step 9, we continue to take responsibility for our past actions. We must go to the people we have harmed and attempt to right our wrongs. There is a good reason why this step does not come sooner in the program. Since our purpose is not to cause further harm, but to improve our relationships, we must have changed sufficiently to make successful amends. This step is not meant to humiliate us, but it is necessary to free us from guilt. Through it, we also forgive ourselves for our past so we can live a better life today. Made amends. To make amends means to change or to improve something or to correct an error. Making amends is not simply saying we are sorry, although an apology might be part of an amend. We make amends by changing our behavior. We begin to act differently towards those in our lives. In making amends, we try to be humble, polite, tactful, and sensible. In this way, we do not become a doormat. Sometimes it requires time or money, not just words, to make amends. If our own name is our 8th step list, we may have to make amends to ourselves before we go further. We have already made a beginning by becoming to the program, but we make further amends to ourselves by choosing healthy patterns of living. As we work the steps, we grow in self-respect and self-esteem. We begin to accept ourselves and develop the right attitude for making amends to others. We do not put off our amends. When we have worked step 1 through 8, we know we are ready and it is then time for action. If there is any doubt in our minds as to whether making amends to someone might cause harm to them or others, we consult a person who can give an objective opinion, perhaps a sponsor or a 5th person. Side note here, this is where I'm at right now. I haven't reached out to somebody, but I think this is my step. So for right now, I'm going to, in my personal development, I'm going to pause there and consult my therapist and look into basically catching up in the steps, and but particularly in the sponsorship area. Okay, continuing. We do not procrastinate unless there is a valid reason for the delay. We do not have to make amends for thoughts or feelings we have towards others. These really have hurt no one but ourselves unless we have acted on them, and in that case we may owe amends. On the other hand, We do not hesitate to make amends for things that we think might seem insignificant to others. If we feel the need to make amends or are certain it will cause no harm to anyone, it has to be done for our own peace of mind. We do not take this step in a hurry. It has to be given proper thought and planning. It does not matter where we begin. We can make the difficult amends first or the easier ones first. We need to plan where and when we will meet to avoid interruption and what we will say so as not to blame them. It is best to keep our amends simple, avoiding a great deal of explanation beyond stating that we have done that. Let me start again. It is best to keep our amends simple, avoiding a great deal of explanation beyond stating what we have done that harmed them and how we intend to repair it. It is often helpful to allow some time for prayer and meditation before making amends to ensure the correct outcome for everyone. We make amends without expecting the same in return from the other person. We have to take the risk that our amends might not be accepted. Even when that does happen, we still benefit from our attempt. We know we have done what we could and so have no more need to feel guilty. We realize this amends process is more about forgiving ourselves than about receiving forgiveness from others. In most cases, however, our amends are well received and relationships are improved as people are consistent. In most cases, however, our amends are well received and relationships are improved as people see we are consistent in our new behaviors. We do not apologize for having gossiped about a person if there is a chance he or she was not aware of the gossip. To do so would cause more hurt. But we can make amends by admitting to the people with whom we have shared the gossip that we were wrong to have done so. We can also strive to stop our tendency to gossip or to listen to gossip. This constitutes making indirect amends to the person we had gossiped about and direct amends to ourselves as we practice honesty and humility. For some wrongs, we may never fully be able to make amends. If we honestly know we would correct them if we could, then we can consider them taken care of. Sometimes people cannot be contacted in person because they live too far away. In that case, we make our amends by sending them an honest letter of apology or making a telephone call. If people on our list are no longer living, or if contacting them in person would add more damage to what was already done, we can make these amends through a fifth step person. We can also visit the grave of the deceased and make our amends there, or write a letter as if they were still alive. Alternatively, we can treat other people in the way we would have treated them if we had the opportunity to make the amends. If we thoroughly and honestly work the program through step 9, we start to notice new attitudes and feelings in ourselves. 1. We realize a new freedom and happiness. 2. We do not regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. 3. We comprehend the word serenity, and we know peace of mind. 4. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we see how our experience can benefit others. 5. The steps of uselessness and self-pity lessen. 6. We have less concern about self and gain interest in others. 7. Self-seeking slips away. 8. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life changes. 9. Our relationships with other people improve. 10. We intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. 11. We acquire a feeling of security within ourselves. 12. We realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. These statements form the 12 promises of the Emotions Anonymous. They may seem idealistic, exaggerated, or extravagant at first, but they really are possible. At our meetings, we see them coming true in those around us. Some of these promises may be realized quickly, others slowly, but they will all develop naturally as a result of honestly working the EA program. Realizing the many benefits of practicing this program, we want to maintain our growth. To do this, we go on to step 10, 11, and 12. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And after some reflecting, I think I need to start focusing on the first 8 steps for sure. Getting a sponsor. So probably once I'm done with this, I will go over the contact list for the EA meeting that I have been attending, and hopefully I can get one of those sponsors to help me. Yeah, it's been a long road in this self-discovery and kind of rebuilding myself from scratch, basically. But I promise you, like it says in those promises, whether you do it inside of the program or outside, whether it's through a therapist, a priest, a friend, on your own, if you put in the work, you will start to see improvements in your life. I can tell you, if you heard, seen, read any of my previous posts on any of the other platforms, I was in really bad shape. I was a very cruel person for a while there. I considered taking my own life. I wasn't who I wanted to be. And it took my life falling apart and basically ending up alone in many respects. I mean, I was luckily taken in by my mom and lived with her. But other than that, I didn't feel any connection to this world. If it hadn't been for Luigi, my dog, I think I would have probably left this world a long time ago. I think seeing his example as a loyal being gave me the push, because honestly, it was him. I started to make the effort to change myself for his sake, because I saw him being more loyal than any human that was out there, and I wasn't as loyal as I wanted to be to him. So I made it a promise to be here for him until the end of his days and to improve as much as I could. That's how I got started, and later on it grew from there. Later on it was for love for an individual that didn't correspond, and eventually it became for self-love, because I wanted to become a better person. Sorry, just checking the time. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna add from the other book, only for today. It's in Spanish, so I will be translating, so just bear with me. Okay, so it starts with a quote that says, "Very deep inside of me, I felt unuseful and inferior. Along the road, many of us develop very strong feelings of inferiority. Inside of us, very deep down, there was a voice that kept screaming, 'You are worth nothing.' Many of us learn that this characteristic, this failure of self-esteem in the beginning of our recovery. Some of us recognize that these feelings started off our problems because of a sense of inferiority. We learn these behaviors and this lack of self-esteem from our family, our interaction with others, but in Emotions Anonymous, or rather this is NA, Narcotics Anonymous, we discover tools to help us rebuild ourselves, to rebuild our fractured self-esteem. Some of us, simply put, start this by accepting positions of service. Possibly our phones start to ring for a first time, and we see that people call us to see how we are doing. They need nothing from us, only to see how we're doing and how they can help. Then we find a sponsor, somebody who teaches how valuable we are and believes in us until we can believe in ourselves. Our sponsors guide us through the 12 steps, through which we learn who we really are, not who we thought we were. Low self-esteem does not disappear overnight. Sometimes we take years to get in touch with our real selves. But with the help of other members in the Narcotics Anonymous, or Emotions Anonymous in our case, that have the same sentiments, and with the help of following the 12 steps, we become an individual who is worthy of respect from others, but more importantly, from ourselves. Just for today, I will remember the love of my higher power. I know that I am a valuable human. Give me a second, I need to meditate on this a little bit before going on. Okay, the first thought that came on in my mind was this: taking both of the ratings from today. I think part of the reason why I haven't reached out to a sponsor or became over reliant on myself was that in the past, many times I came across situations where people were going through things of their own. They just didn't have the bandwidth to be there for me. They left me on red, or they didn't have the expertise to help me. And so many times, in order to not be quote unquote trouble, I figured things out on my own. I don't know if subconsciously that created, a sense of duality, you can say, because I knew that I was competent and that I could figure things out, and the show must go on became my motto. But I think it kind of hurt me too, because I think at some point it was internalized into an extreme that there must be something wrong with me, that these people are not there for me, right? And yeah, that's a victim mentality. That's something that I'm discovering as I've been getting better, that a lot of the explosions that I had and do have sometimes when I have setbacks were based on this, that I felt this, unfairness where, I felt like I was putting in more effort into my relationships, whether it was a friendship, a romantic interest, a family member, even pets to some respect. That I was putting, was bending over backwards to, to be of some use, even when walking down the street. I think that has been one of my pet peeves that I mentioned to my therapist, the previous one and the current one, that, a lot of my my stress point in that respect was that there would be many times where I would get fed up with people just being so, rude and consistent and considerate, whatever, that, I would justify being nasty, being rude, being cruel. But luckily, by grace of God, I also came to the conclusion, that was causing more harm. It was making me cope in ways that was being counterproductive to me. I was alienating people, and more I was getting into clashes, especially as I started to kind of find the first version of my voice, because before I would just kind of look down, keep quiet, walk away discreetly when things were getting kind of, out of hand, because a lot of the situations that I was exposed to were at the hands of third-party people, and I felt like I was being caught in the middle. I think all that put together did, in some respects, make me feel like a victim, because, a lot of the times where I was caught in the middle, I was like, I'm trying to just focus here on what I'm trying to do, and yet I'm stuck here, like in my personal family, there was a lot of times where a few members got together with very toxic people, and they would bring their particular domestic issues near us. Now, they had to work through some things. Some of them gotten better, others not so much. But, me just being around all that negativity just felt really unfair, because, I was just focusing on myself, trying to get ahead, trying to make a future for myself and my family. So just, it felt like I was just putting in more work to just be a better person than other people. But that wasn't fair to them either, because, as that saying says, you don't know what you don't know. My mom told me a long time ago that, I have special gifts, and I come to realize that that's true. A lot of the trauma from growing up made me hyper aware, in the sense that just to try to keep myself safe, I would basically plan ahead. I would see the multiple scenarios that could happen from any number of things that I was observing, to watch everything, to watch people, watch their micro expressions, what they said, what they didn't say, where they would pause, the consistencies in their stories, their behavior with one person, with another, things like that, to watch out for red flags. And I got really good at that. I got so good that many times when, random people that I got to know would be having an off day, I would catch it right away, and most of them would tell me, "How did you know? Nobody has said anything. You're the only one." So I learned that, I got really good at, quote unquote, predicting the future. It wasn't that I was predicting the future, it's that I was paying close attention and have a good memory for, for the past. All in the strives of, trying to keep myself safe. But because I was putting all that extra effort, I think it got to the point where I just got fed up with it, that I was the only one. But that's the thing, that not everybody has the same experience as I did. Not everybody had to grow up, for all intents and purposes, as a only child. I was raised by my mother here in the United States for my first 10 years. My older siblings, I'm the youngest, by the way, my elder siblings were raised by my grandmother in Mexico until I was 10. That's when they started to come over. Them and other family members, I mean. Um, and so when they came here, that became a struggle. And then when they started to get into their teens, into, making their lives here, problems started to crop up. And usually I was kind of stuck in the middle of all this stuff, just hearing stuff. I mean, I remember one time one of my sisters, she came home and all of her boyfriend's stuff was gone. He had left her. And I was only 13, and I was there, the only one that was there. Everybody was at work or school or something. I don't remember what it was, but I can remember how traumatizing it was for me to be holding my 15-year-old sister, and no, hold on, she's 18-year-old sister, um, and me only being 13, and holding her, just consoling her. And she's bawling her eyes out and basically having a total meltdown. I mean, I remember her going into the closet of her apartment and just collapsing on the floor, just crying, like she was in total disbelief. And how I felt so impotent to help her, like I was just a stupid kid. And later on, how things like that kind of made me a little bit jaded towards her and my other sister, that I guess growing up, it affected them a lot too, because there was things that I came to learn as an adult that I'm not going to mention here, but that really messed them up. So I understand where they got their particular coping mechanisms that later on became a problem for me. So I understand. I don't blame them. I mean, I don't excuse it, but I don't blame them. And so I see that, that how these things were, when life just gives you a raw deal, you start to believe that you're part of the problem of why this is happening to you, and you start to believe it. And so that's why I'm so thankful, to God, that has made himself very apparent to me outside of religion. I mean, I think my relationship with God started even before I really understood what religion was. And in many ways, where I mentioned, the serendipity effect, the when God winks. I mentioned that book many times in other posts, that the concept of when God winks is when you see those signs out and about in the world, things that you were thinking one day, lo and behold, they appear before you. And one time, yeah, it's a coincidence. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, but when it's basically almost on the daily, it's like you start to, really like think, hey, there's something going on. But because of that, and because of things like, therapy and, the Emotions Anonymous groups, that I do realize that as hard as it was growing up, I had the fundamental tools to be able to build more tools. And unfortunately, not everybody has that. Some have troubled lives, but they don't have a level of trauma that basically forces them to be hyper aware to the point where they're troubleshooting things before they happen. I mean, for me, I remember for the longest time, and it's kind of starting to fade away now, and I'm thankful, because that kind of caused a lot of stress in myself as well. Anytime that I would run across some sort of obstacle, there wouldn't be necessarily any engagement with individuals, but in my mind I was going through a script of what I would have liked to have told them, or what I would have told them, given the opportunity of me speaking up. And now that I'm working on building boundaries and communicating them, even when I'm feeling down in an emotional state or in a physical state, I see how before that worked me up, and that exercise of practicing how to respond, sometimes not in a flattering way, became energy that was trapped inside. I would bottle it up, and because I was not ready, I didn't have the emotional quotient that I needed to have. When things got bad, when it just built up, all of that would come out in the most horrendous of ways. I mean, I still remember, and I think I'll remember to probably the day that I pass away, the times that I alienated, love interests. One of them still sticks to my mind. I remember when we were in friendship, he had a partner, a boyfriend. The guy, let's just say he didn't deserve him. This guy, the friend, he was an angel. I mean, he was a little bit abrasive sometimes, and really made me question if we ever got together and had family, what kind of relationship he would have with our children. Yeah, I got to that point that I started to kind of picture life with them, and I think that's kind of what preempted all the stuff that happened later, and I got too attached to him, knowing that he wasn't available. And I think I did push him too hard, and he blew up in my face. And not knowing how to handle things, I said something hurtful that he had mentioned in confidence, in my mind, as a defense. But it's like that allegory of a child hurting somebody, and the father tells them to hammer in a bunch of nails in the fence, and then to take them out. And he makes the comparison: each one of those holes in this fence is like that insult you said. You may say you're sorry, that's you taking out the nail, but the hole is there. It can never be fixed. And that's what happened with this particular individual. I try to make amends in different ways, but in our last encounter, and I don't blame him for wanting to get revenge, because that's basically what it came off as. In so many words, I earned it. I earned that anger. But I do regret that, that I had met him at the wrong time, because he was such a wonderful person. I think he was like honestly the first person who got me. And then later on I met other individuals that basically the same thing happened, but same situation. I wasn't ready for them. I wasn't mature enough to be able to handle difficult situations. So I'm very thankful for, my life collapsing like it did, because it forced me to reset my life. It forced me to take a real in-depth look to see why I was so messed up and so alienated for everybody, and why I was where I was. I needed that hard pause. And now, I'm still rebuilding my life. Things got a little bit complicated because, well, like I mentioned in other posts, my mom has been way past her life expectancy of her second kidney transplant. Normal kidney transplants are 23 years. She's going on 28. And so now I'm struggling with that too. Like, being here for her. I work for the county taking care of her. But, I'm not able to really get a proper job. Just working here, like when I was working at the grocery store a few miles down the road, I was working full 8 hours before she got a little bit worse, but at the time, my family was taking care of her. Now my aunt that was helping her, she moved away, and my brother has been more preoccupied right now with my two sisters that have been going through a lot of stuff. So, and the fact that I kind of pushed a lot of these people away too, not only from me but from her. In a way, I'm kind of doing my penance right now, but she's my mother, so it doesn't really hurt me. But it does make it a little bit hard that, some days I do get depressed. I get down. And it makes it hard to get any kind of job, because even when there was help, I was always with the worry in the back of my mind, how is she? And now that I have less help, it's that much worrying that, I can't work 8 hours somewhere else. I can't go back to my previous role where I was working as a quality engineer in San Jose, which is, one of the closest places for us to get a job here. There is Santa Cruz, which is up the road, but there's very few companies there that do that kind of work. And to be honest, quality engineering in software is very, very demanding. Um, if you ever worked in that industry, you know what I'm talking about. You do long hours, and basically, because you're on salary, sometimes you work more than the 40 hours a week. I remember the time when I was working at Yahoo. Sometimes I was staying up till 1 in the morning because of a release, and would be up by like, I don't know, 6 to be on the road to work, to be there by 9. I can't do that kind of work anymore because of my mother. I need to be here for her. I mean, again, she's on 28 years of life expectancy of 23 of her kidney. And because of all her complications, she has chosen, and the doctors have said as much, she's not eligible for another kidney transplant. And because of her delicate condition, she would most likely not survive the operation. So now we're basically on a ticking clock that, every day is a blessing. And I don't know how long she's going to be around. And that was, in addition to Luigi, that was the other reason why I was trying to fix myself, because I wanted to improve my relationship with her. I'll probably talk about this more in a separate post, but in a nutshell, when my grandmother passed away, my grandmother, by the way, if you understand the Mexican culture, women are basically the people that run the show. Not just in, the power behind the throne, but in actuality. It's a matriarch culture for all intents and purposes. In our family, my grandmother was the matriarch of our extended family. All the aunts and uncles, worked together for her sake. When she passed away, because my mother was more younger, it was kind of, she became the mother, but not the elderly mother yet. She was still helping out a lot of people. Let me just put it in context. When I was about 13 years old, my grandmother was still alive, by the way, at this time. But when I was 13 years old, one of my older cousins, he came over to live with us because he was acting up a lot, and his parents didn't know how to handle him. So they asked my mother to take him in. Personally speaking, as an adult, I don't think that was such a great idea, because he was really troubled. He was into some hard stuff. I mean, he reformed himself. He made a life for himself. He has a family now. But, a lot of the things that we had to go through because of him, something that I kind of blame my mother for, with him and other members of our family, that there was a lot of stuff that we had to endure because of all of them. And like I mentioned before, yes, they went through their own sets of traumas. That doesn't justify, but it does explain their specific situations. But that doesn't mean that their particular handling of their own lives didn't cause repercussions not only for others in the family, but for me as well. I mean, the constant drama from all the family members when my mother became the matriarch of her family made me to the point where I was basically self-isolating just to keep clear, to be out of the way. And that caused its own set of problems for me. It caused me to become so hyper independent that later on it became a problem. It was one of my sore points where, I would clash with my supervisors in different roles for the very same reason, that I would usually not agree with them, because, well, I usually figured it was my way was the best way, and, well, that wasn't productive. So that's what I mean, that, the situations growing up, create these self images of ourselves that can become problematic. And right now, as my mom's life is winding down, I'm trying to improve myself because, for many years I did blame her for taking these type of decisions without even consulting me or my siblings, you know, in trying to help others, which is part of her trauma that I think growing up, just seeing everything that she did. I mean, she's been telling me about our family history. I can see where this hero complex came out from, you know, and why I also kind of became a little bit selfish in that respect. That I was like, hey, there has to be a balance that, yeah, you can help people, but not at the cost of your own well-being or those that are close to you. And I still kind of stand by that a little bit, but I do understand a little bit more why she did what she did. And at the same time, I'm trying to kind of, work through all this, these hard feelings, and just get to a good place where I don't snap at her now, especially that it's getting more frustrating that, that the faults in memory start to arise, that those signs, those subtle signs of dementia are starting to crop up. That it gets frustrating because, a lot of the things growing up, her comparing me to her, that was very traumatizing as well. I mean, it seemed like nothing I did was ever right for her. And those kind of things do pop up sometimes, but, I do realize that she's at a point where it's kind of almost an impossible battle to work through, especially as her mental and physical health is declining. So if I want to continue a good relationship with her, I have to put the additional work to kind of just stick it through until she passes, and then we'll see. But at least I'm putting in the work for me, so that when she does pass, I don't carry this stuff into any kind of relationship. And she has been the primary driver in that respect too, because I've noticed my relationship with her mirrors a lot of a romantic relationship in that sense of communication and misunderstandings and things like that. So I'm like, the kind of problems that I have with her, I'm very likely to encounter with a romantic interest. That I don't want to be acting the same way with a partner. That how I acted with that love interest, that I soured that relationship. I don't want that to happen anymore. That I want to become a better partner for whoever ends up being at my side. And it all starts by, like the book says, forgiving myself, knowing that past version of myself existed for a reason, that it helped me cope with who I was at the time, with what I was facing. And now that I'm in a safer space, that I have the opportunity to work through all those, counterproductive coping mechanisms, and to little by little fix them one by one. And now, as I progress, to start to get ready to start to make amends to the people that I hurt. That even though, and that's been one thing that I've been kind of focusing on too, that even though in some respects they did hurt me unintentionally, that did create the resistance to the amends portion. Because in my mind, up to recently, it was like, well, they never apologized to me for the hurt they caused me. Why should I apologize to them? But it's not about that. It's more about, I did cause harm. It doesn't matter if I was justified or not. I did cause harm to other people. But in order to save face with myself, I have to change myself first before even saying I'm sorry, because the last thing I want is to be a hypocrite in saying sorry and doing it again. And as the book said, you actually do need to work on yourselves to the point where you're not going to repeat those behaviors, so that it's actually honest and consistent, that the amends will actually mean something to the other individual. And if they don't want anything to do with you, to be cognizant that that will happen and that you tried your best. And that's basically where I'm at right now. It's been a long process, a lot of, gardening meditations to work through a lot of these emotional barriers. Um, for me, it was very important to do that, the gardening meditation, because, um, like I mentioned before, I repressed a lot of emotions, good and bad, that, a lot of these traumas, I couldn't even access them because it required basically breaking down, crying, or yelling, or whatever it took. But I didn't allow myself to feel anything, good or bad. I mean, you hear me right now basically speaking a lot of this in, almost like a clinical sense, like without feeling, but that's who I became. That's what helped me stay alive, and I'm working on trying to feel my feelings when I need to feel them, but it's going to take some time too. But I think this way of, processing what's going on in life, I think that will be part of me in one way or another for the rest of my life, of just trying to detach myself from all these situations, because, I don't think I'm ready to 100% feel the magnitude of everything that I went through. And it's not that I'm being a victim, but it's, due to everything going on constantly, including my mom's health. She's been sick since she was a young girl, and living with a sick mother for my first 10 years alone, away from a lot of people. And again, during a time that orphan stories were a big thing, it screwed me up big time. To see my sister collapse because her boyfriend left her, seeing my cousin try to take his own life, and seeing the blood in a bathroom floor, seeing many other situations that I shouldn't have been exposed to. Yes, it created a lot of damage. And so now I'm kind of, emotionally speaking, I'm kind of untangling a proverbial Christmas lights. I'm untangling all of that and kind of setting things right. And that includes making things right with the people that I hurt. Alright, I'm coming up on almost the hour, so I think I'll cut it off there. I hope this has helped you in some respect, and that you, if you haven't done so already, that you consider, for your own sake, going to a Emotions Anonymous meeting, going to therapy, talking to a priest or a friend, or picking up a self-help book, journaling, that's another thing, to basically to put in the work on yourself, to essentially rebuild yourself from the ground up before life forces you to. Because I honestly, had it not been for Luigi, I don't think I would have been alive right now. Not many of us are lucky to have that chance. I know a lot of us that go through this, or some of us rather, we get very close to that edge. And like they say, don't let a temporary setback be handled by a permanent solution. There is hope. I am proof of it. The people who have worked any of the 12-step programs, from Narcotics Anonymous to Shoppers Anonymous to Emotions Anonymous, any of them, there's dozens of them, of programs like that. To all the people who have maintained a close relationship with their higher power, their God, whatever that may be, they have all worked through, the worst versions of themselves because they sought out the help. So I really recommend for you to seek out help. There's this one quote from the sitcom Mom If anything, start watching that. That helped me a lot because it opened my eyes to what the 12 steps can do for you. The main character, I forget her, Anna Faris. She plays that one character in Scary Movie. Yep, that one, the blonde girl, lady, woman. Sorry, I apologize. Her. She plays one of the main characters on Mom. In one scene, she's basically griping about how everybody around her is an asshole. Or stupid or something. I don't know what word they use, but basically an asshole. Her sponsor, Marjorie, says, if everybody around me is an asshole, who really is the asshole? It took me a while to realize that I was the asshole. And then later on came the question, why? So, if when you go about life, you keep seeing assholes, ask yourself, how can you get away from them? Like, really? And the solution is not to walk away. The solution is much simpler. It's to focus on yourself. There's countless philosophies across many cultures that say as much, that the only real thing that we have control over is ourselves. So why not work on ourselves? I hope that helps out. You have a good day.